And at the urging of President Trump yesterday, the CDC issued a travel advisory for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. People living in those states are now advised to refrain from all non-essential domestic travel for the next 2 weeks. This after the president said that he was considering a full quarantine of the states, which he now says is not necessary. Joining me right now is House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. And Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me back on.
So is it necessary to have these lockdowns on obviously the tri-state area and throughout the country at this point?
I think it is necessary because when you look at the number of deaths, but also the number of individuals have it, a large portion of that is from this tri-state. This president's trying to get ahead of it, just as he made that very smart decision for stopping the flights from China coming in as well. These are protections for the rest of the nation.
Let's talk about that relief bill that you and your colleagues worked on, the president signing into law. Can you go through it, walk us through what's most important and what you believe will actually move the needle on economic growth? Because we know that we may very well be in a recession right now.
Yes, this was very critical. It's more than a rescue. It's actually a commitment from your government. I wish we would have had this a week ago. Unfortunately, Democrats have held us up. But let's walk through the importance of this. First, it provides $140 billion to the hospitals. This is directly so they get liquidity, but also for that personal protection equipment that is so critical because our medical community is really the modern-day soldier in this virus that we're battling. But for the small business owner, we want to make sure we're keeping people employed. And if you were a small business, 500 employees to just a gig worker yourself, you get a guaranteed loan from government for 2.5 times your payroll. If you use that money to pay your employees, if you already laid them off, bring them back and pay them, pay your rent, pay your utilities, and that is forgiven. No longer a loan, but a grant. If you are a larger business, you get a guaranteed loan, but you also get a retention program in there through a tax advantage that government will pay for half of your employee salary. That's an ability to keep people working. Then the individual checks that will go and start in 3 weeks. $1,200 per person, $2,400 per couple, $500 per child, and it'll start phasing down after earning $75,000. This is critical to get us through the next 2 months and get this economy coming back, just like a hockey stick looks at. We'll have a couple tough months,
so this is the next 2 months,
but we can have the strongest economy.
You said that.
Yes.
You said the next 2 months, and Secretary Mnuchin said the same thing, 10 to 12 weeks to address the dislocation just in the next 10 to 12 weeks. So does that mean we're getting another stimulus, a fourth package after the next 10 to 12 weeks?
I'm not sure we need a fourth package. And before we go to start drafting a fourth package, I'd like these 3 packages we just put out. Remember, it's more than $2 trillion, the largest we've ever seen, to take care and get this economy moving. Remember, for unemployment insurance, we're adding another $600 above what your state pays. We start paying in the first week, and we give you additional 13 weeks. What concerns me is when I listen to Nancy Pelosi talk about a fourth package now, it's because she did not get in the things that she really wanted. To change the election law, a Green New Deal, expand, make us pay for Planned Parenthood, and expand what you're seeing for sanctuary cities. Those are the things why this bill was held up for a week, but those are the things that we stopped.
That is so outrageous that you were actually being asked to consider funding Planned Parenthood at a time that we are in this crisis situation where you're trying to come up with a relief package. I just want to share with you what Nancy Pelosi said this morning, though, Congressman, because she is just saying this right now. President Trump's denial at the beginning of this was deadly, and that right now, as he fiddles, her words, as he fiddles, people are dying. This is what Nancy Pelosi said this morning. Your reaction?
Well, what I see is that Nancy is trying to cover herself in the Democratic Party because the amount of damage that they had just done in the last week, requesting about changing election law, that her number 3 in her own party said they wanted to restructure government, take the opportunity of a crisis. And Maria, what happened last week, 3.2 million Americans lost their job, 6 times higher than in the financial crisis, higher than the Great Depression. All because Democrats wanted to put their liberal parts in. But this president fought for it. This president stopped that. And what's most importantly is history will not be kind to the Democrats. Holding up that week was so critical. When you look at the action that President Trump took, one of the first to stop that the Chinese would be coming into America, or Europe as well, and their own party criticized the president for doing those actions, but it saved thousands of lives, just as he wanted to move this bill. I was sitting in that meeting last Sunday. This bill is 99% where it was last Sunday, but Nancy Pelosi held it up, bragged to her members in the idea of changing Green New Deal, Planned Parenthood, changing election law, and expanding sanctuary cities. Nothing to do with coronavirus. They did get $24 million more dollars for the Kennedy Center.
She tells, yes, exactly, $25 million for the Kennedy Center, and yet she tells a completely different on the plan. She said we had to do jujitsu to change it, to get it where it is. And then, of course, you've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and what she said on Friday. Watch this. Got to get your reaction, Congressman.
What did the Senate majority fight for? One of the largest corporate bailouts with as few strings as possible in American history. Shameful. The greed of that fight is wrong.
You saw that. Your reaction.
Yes. Well, it's not a time for theatrics. This is time to actually get the bill done. But if you listen to these Democrats, that is exactly what they want to do. They're more concerned about a foreign country or foreign individual than they are about America themselves. And not only do we have to fight this, remember, the virus is here. We did not invite it. We did not ask for it, but we will defeat it together. And that's exactly what this bill does. Unfortunately, we were held up a week by the Democrats. 99% of this bill was done last week. It's exactly the same from the 13 extra weeks, from the small business, from the large business, from the hospitals. But Pelosi's in trouble based upon hurting Americans because they want to restructure this to look more like the socialist views they believe in.
So let's end on some optimism, Congressman, because I know that you had a phone call this morning with managers of businesses, CEOs in the pharma sector. Tell us what you're expecting, and this feels like a newfound partnership between business and government right now. I know that the president has been calling lots of different groups, CEOs to the White House, to try to figure out how business can help here. What have you learned?
This is the great thing about America, the ingenuity. I was talking to a consortium from the very best medical individuals to the very highest CEOs, working together with government to get that personal protection equipment coming into America. And as we know, China has gotten a large portion of that supply chain. Unfortunately, we just found out, one of the highest CEOs told me, that she came in and took one of our factories where we were purchasing millions of the equipment to come over here to give it to France, because they're trying to take more of the market share for Huawei, that France will agree to allow Huawei into their industry, once again from the equipment, to using this tragic situation to get more of the supply chain in another industry. But what we're seeing in America, look at what Abbott just came out this week, that they have a new ability to get a test results for coronavirus in as fast as 5 minutes. We're already into a trial 1 test for a virus. The ingenuity of America will overcome this. We will be stronger. But we have to look at the supply chain, something that President Trump has told us about from the very beginning. China has too much control of our medical equipment, too much control when it comes to pharmaceuticals, too much control of critical minerals. We've got to take this back and keep it inside America so we can combat not only this, but other things in the future.
Definitely one of the most important lessons from all of this. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.